So tonight I minister from the sermon topic, can God use your voice? Can God use your voice? Since time immemorial, indeed from the beginning of time, God used the power and preeminence of a voice to declare what should be. Yes, God himself spoke into a void reality of the darkness of the earth and demanded what was to come forth, that it should come forth. So perhaps we can park it right there and understand that when God has given you a voice and God has indeed given you what to say, that you can command the situation. Now you're not commanding the situation because of what you want. You're commanding the situation because you're speaking what thus said the Lord. And so let's look at it and see how God did it in the beginning. Genesis chapter 1 through 3, he says this, the word, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Light is up. So right away, church, we see the pattern. That the voice speaks forth a thought, and that spoken thought becomes manifest according to the will of God. Everything that exists because God spoke it forth and permitted it to exist. Now see right there, somebody should feel special. Because you think that you're here because your mama and daddy got together. I'm going to tell you that you're here because God said that you would be here. See, when the people of God recognize that their existence is not dependent upon another human being, that their existence and their stability and their still being here is all because God said so, then you wake up every morning and say, God, I'm that special. You still another day for me. Thank you, God. Yet, watch this now. Yet, and in spite of this God voice aspect, once something exists, such as mankind, mankind then has a decision of choice as to whether to obey God or not. Amen. Yep. I mean, trees don't pick up, The dog doesn't rebel and refuse to bark. Early hours. Trying to tell you something. Can you imagine the unity of God's voice and that which he proclaimed become manifest? Trees swaying, just like God told them. Dogs barking, just like God told them. Pets meowing, just like God told them. Fish swimming, just like God told them. Yet God's highest creation, mankind, God gives the power of choice. Ain't no dog heaven, ain't no pet heaven. There's a heaven for you and me if we make the choice to live as God told us to live. You are not forced to obey God. This means that God already knew that mankind would end up disobeying his voice. We see that with the serpent in the Garden of Eden and the worship overseer, Lucifer, in heaven. Church, what I really want you to understand tonight is that even though some voices choose to disobey God, the angels, God still has 2/3. Lord have mercy, I felt that. God still has 2/3 of the angels. Come on, let me help somebody. You better catch it. When the enemy is coming after you and you feel like the hordes of hell are coming against you, I want you to remember that's just 1/3. There's another 2/3 of angels. And the second call of God. And God will summon his warring angels to come and see about you. Yeah, see, when you got there, you build up a self-confidence about yourself. 2/3 of the angels will continue to obey God. And tonight, I want to honor our Apostle Burdine as an obedient servant of God and a voice who speaks as God directs her to speak. This is what God is looking for, that his creation would hear him and obey him. Let me read some verses here. Exodus 19:5. It says, "Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine." John 14:15 says, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Luke 11:28 says, "But he said, yea, rather, blessed are they that hear the word of God and keep it." And keep it. You got to keep it. Lord have mercy. Acts 5:29, it says, "Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than," you know that, rather than that. You see, church, you must hear God's voice and then become, I love this, an echo of the voice of God. My. What if the next time, say, son, you coming, everybody's in their church, right? And when you lift up your voice in praise and worship, you actually understand that you are becoming an echo of God. That would be some worship service, I'm going to tell you that. It wouldn't be just so-and-so is praising God and so-and-so is praising God. You'd be like, that's an echo of heaven that's touched down on earth. So tonight I want to look at a voice that God used, because God was in need of a voice. Let's do so by covering the following 3 points. Point number 1, the need of a voice. The need of a voice. Point 2, the now of a voice. The now of a voice. And then point 3, the nebula of a voice. The nebula of a voice. Let's deal with it. Point number 1, the need of a voice. Since voices fail, God always has another voice ready. Nobody's indispensable. We're not going to live forever. God's got another voice. It makes me very careful about what I do, what I say. I'm replaceable. So listen. God dictates to his people how they should live via a voice. Hear me. Hear me. You look at the Bible. God always has a voice. A singular voice. A singular voice. I woke up early Tuesday morning hearing this, Lord. A voice brings light to the world. A voice brings light to the world. It made divine sense. For God's voice spoke forth the first creative word, light. His voice summoned light. So every time God's people get together and they lift up their voice, some light should enter in. Oh God. When we begin to worship and praise and speak forth the word of God, light should go on. Lives should change. Yeah. Let there be light. No, you and I are lights of the world. And it is incumbent upon us that when we use our voice, when we speak, that we bring light to the situation. I know somebody's off, that what they speak makes things more dark. Well, in our text, the light has gone out. The light has gone out. God's house is dim. Lord, people, I want to rush that door. I said, God's house is dim. God who spoke forth light in the beginning, yet he looks in his own house and he sees no light. God's house is void of his voice and his light. Verse 1, and the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. Did you hear me? No open vision. There was no insight. There was nothing insightful being said. There is darkness. church, watch this, going on as normal. Oh Lord, when the Holy Ghost said that, I just felt like sitting down right there, doctor, just sitting down. Church, going on as normal, but no light. So, don't tell me you can go to any church on a Sunday. I'm the wrong one. No. Because you can have church operating, but operating out of order. Every church does, we open in prayer, we sing a song, we do a hymn, we read the scripture, we sing a couple more songs, we have a prayer for offering, we take offering, we have a sermonic hymn, we got the sermon, we have a prayer. But in the text, the house of God has no open vision, there's no light, there is darkness. You got a priest, you got workers, you got leadership, but no light. You have everybody in place. But watch this. God ain't in the place. Yeah. I'm coming to that. It's no open vision. What does this statement mean? It means that there is no consistent flowing of light. God is not speaking, but church is happening. Oh, come on up in here. See, let me help you out. Watch this. Just heard this by the Holy Spirit. If God said, in the last days, I'm going to pour out my spirit, that means that if you go inside of a house of God, and you don't feel the Spirit of God flowing, then God is not in that place. I don't care if you have the best furniture, the best AC, the best PA system. Give me the presence of God. Give me the voice of God. I want to hear what God is saying. There is no substitute for the voice of God. No substitute. Can't be a professional. Can't be an intellectual. You gotta know how to move by the Spirit. You gotta know how to move by the Spirit. That's man, watch this. Only when the Holy Spirit is in order like that can disorder be order. I get kind of nervous with churches that just go like this. No. I like a church that's like this. Let me carry on, because you know I'm a teacher, preacher. Yeah. A challenging word. Listen. No open vision. No insight, no revelation, no kairos of God. There's no supernatural move happening. In our modern day, we would say Ichabod. The Spirit of the Lord has left. The Spirit of God has demonstrated disapproval by exiting the house of God. Don't tell me He's everywhere. God knows everything. He's everywhere at every time, right? The Holy Spirit, watch it now, I'm going to teach you something. The Holy Spirit is 1/3 of the triune Godhead. So that 1/3, the Holy Spirit, He is seeking those who worship Him in spirit and in truth. So that He comes knocking on your church door and He don't feel His kinship. Spirit to spirit, truth to truth, power to power. He moves down the street. And let me tell you something I'm going to rejoice about now, that when He reaches Chicago, to break through, or drown, to be over, to burst, to breach. So God is saying, listen, that when His presence isn't there, when there is no open vision, there's no breakthrough. There's no bursting through. There's no breach. Come on now, we talk about breach on Sunday. I'm hearing that again. There's no breach. It means that, He floods. It's a breaching and the water rushes through. And He wants to come into the church that way. He just wants to burst through the door, break through. But He says, when I don't recognize I'm there, I'm breaching. I'm going. This is the situation. In other words, this takes us to the image, watch this, of the birthing forth out of the womb. Let me tell you something. Every woman knows you can't control when your waterbed breaks. I wish I had time. I wish I could ask every mother, where did your waterbed break? Some of you are saying the church pew. That pew's belonged to you ever since. In a car, out to dinner. In other words, the image of birthing and bringing forth is you never know when it's going to happen. But you know it's going to happen. It's a spirit of expectancy. So that when you enter into the house of God, the moment that you come through the gates with thanksgiving, you are expecting something to be birthed today. So these, in the church we're looking at tonight, these were so bad in the church that there was no new birthing. There were no breakthroughs. It was a church having church as usual. Let me tell you something. God, when God is in the building, there will always be something new happening. That's the breach, the breaking forth, the bursting forth in an unusual way to bring forth a new thing. And here we see that in this church, led by Eli, there was nothing new taking place that met with God's approval. I'll park it right there. You can have some new things happening, but the new thing got to meet with God's approval. Got too much new stuff happening in church, ain't meeting with God's approval. Holy Spirit ain't in it. So why? Why is God not approving? Because Eli had permitted carnality to enter into the house. And worse than that, Eli had permitted flesh, carnality, watch this, in leadership. No. Now, God got a lot of grace and mercy. But when His leaders act a fool, God is going to do something. Because there is a higher place of accountability for leaders. His grandsons, Eli's sons, were knowingly doing those things which do not please God. They were the lead culprits. How are you going to help people when you're doing worse than them? As Levites, they were supposed to be set aside. Yet when they carried out the office of the Levite, they did so in their own way, taking their portion of the sacrifice, flesh hooks, take what they want. And God didn't permit that. They wanted what they wanted. They also wanted women. Fix my sleeve on that. Wanted women. They committed fornication with the women workers. Here you go, women trying to work in the church. Just trying to serve in the church. And nasty leaders got to be hitting on them. I'm talking about Eli, y'all. Eli. Again, doing things their own way. Yet when a church goes this wrong, God is already preparing a voice to that church. Verse 2, and it came to pass at that time when Eli was laid down in his place. I could preach on his place. But I'm going to skip that for today. I'm going to skip that. Preach that another time, his place. Laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim that he could not see. A blind leader. help us when the church goes on, but God is nowhere in the church going on. You think every bright new idea is of God? Better check it out. The lights are out in the place that should be full of light. Yet we know that God will only leave his house in darkness for so long. I want to talk about number 2 now. The now of the voice. That while the enemy is doing foolishness, God is already preparing a new thing, a new light, a new voice, a voice that will hear right and do right. 3 and 4. And there the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of, can you imagine that? The ark is there. The ark of the covenant. The outward symbolic manifestation of the divine presence of God is there. And God's checked out. You can't settle for formality. It can't be, this is work, this is how we do it. It has to be, is God approving of what we're doing? So where the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, here am I. Now, the temple, the ark of the covenant, yet no voice. And so God does something here that ought to look familiar. Don't look familiar. Don't miss this example. This was delicious. And God gave it to you. So let me take you to it. Now I will remind you, because I like to make sure you're with me. Samuel is laying down asleep. That should be familiar. Let me take you somewhere. Genesis 2:21. It reads, and the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh and stayed thereof. Church, hear me. When God is about to make a major shift and introduce to the world a new thing with a fresh supply of things to birth or give, he causes the person to go to sleep. He puts them to sleep. Now, and I know I got a few people that can testify. Watch this. I can attest to this personally. There are times when I want to stay awake. I want to stay up late to do a lot of work. But I get so sleepy. I'm like, bumping my head against the computer. I'm sleepy that I have to admit defeat. I say, girl, go sleep. Now watch this. And it's during such times I'm unconscious. I'm unaware of what's going on around me, that God will reveal something to me that I have never seen heretofore. Can I get a witness? Sometimes in our humanity, we stay awake, we fight, we want the answer. And God's up there going, go to sleep, little bird, go to sleep, go to sleep. Because he knows that we have, watch this, Dr. Burgess, he already knows that we have a desire to understand, we have a desire to hear the answer, and so you're ready for the surgery, go to sleep. And he puts you in a comatose state, so that when you wake up, and I love it when it happens, you hear exactly, you know exactly what you've got to do. Like God speaks loud in your ear. Then you say to yourself, I'll confess, I say to myself, you got dummy, you should have went to sleep a half an hour early. And so, this is what God does with Samuel. Just as Eve was going to be the birthing mother of all living, Samuel would grow to be a major prophet, voice, birthing many words and anointing, many leaders of Israel. God laid Samuel down to sleep. Shh. God needs to speak. Shh. Sometimes we just talking. Shh. God wants to use his voice, watch this, to train your ear so you can speak with your voice. Yeah? Why? Because God will always send a word to his house, Apostle. God will always speak forth life into the one who will give that house life again. Go in somewhere. When anointing. Good Almighty, wow. Samuel was going to birth a new anointing. There will be a fresh wind blowing. A new dose of the presence of God in the temple. That's what a voice will do. And Apostle, I get to view some of your videos. You know, I save them, and on that time I check them out. I check out what you're doing. And what I'm noting, especially recently, you're being called out a lot to speak at other venues. And I'm going to tell you it's because there is a need of a fresh wind of the Holy Ghost in that place. And so God has conditioned your voice like a Samuel's voice that you are here and speak. See, let me tell you, it's a beauty in it and a danger in it at the same time. Because you hear so quick, you speak just as quick. And sometimes when you speak, you want to take your words back, but they're already going out. But that's the voice, the prophetic voice, that as quick as you hear, you speak into the atmosphere. I watch it. I said, there she goes again, shifting, look at her. Oh yeah, I watch you trying to keep up with her dancing. That's right. I watch you trying to keep up with her. And I'm looking at the spiritual atmosphere, the turn of the people, and seeing how they shift. If that they understand that a voice has entered into that place to take it to its next place in God. So your very presence, how you praise. Oh, I'm watching you. Oh, you got those flat shoes now. I got it. They're cute too. Better than flip-flops. I noticed that you will dance your dance in those flat shoes. I got you. See, even your dance speaks. Your dance, let me go up and do it, speaks forth something. Speaks forth the presence. Invites in a shift. All this happening because had it not been for the servant of God entering into that place, at that time, the light could be going dim and out. And that's the accountability and responsibility that God has given to you. It is needed in every house. Why? Point number 3. Point number 3. The nebula of a voice. The nebula of a voice. Now, the nebula of a voice. The voice of God's leaders are needed when things are nebulous. Nebulous. Meaning things are cloudy. Cloudy. These are foggy. They're not clear. They're not right. They're not righteous. Jesus, let me tell you something. I heard the Holy Ghost. Holy Ghost says, listen, the leaders are off, but because the people, somebody in that congregation desires a change. Somebody in that congregation desires that this house be saved. Lord, for that one person, way down the back, ain't got no position, ain't got no title. All they want is a feeling of God. All they want is a fresh wind of the Holy Spirit. And for that person, God will step in and use a voice. I watch things. Sometimes the leaders don't move. You know why they don't move? Because they ain't been moving all this time. If they were moving all this time, you wouldn't be needed. So it's best for you not even to look at the leadership, look at the people. Somebody out there needs a move of God. Somebody out there needs a fresh, mighty flow of the Holy Ghost power. Somebody needs to know that God is omnipotent, reigning. Somebody needs to know that God is the same. Somebody needs to know that God is yet all powerful and in control. Things are foggy. Samuel was about to be trained in the ways of God. He had seen the ways of Eli, and therefore it would take a minute for him to be rightly retrained. Just heard reprogramming. Reprogramming. A lot of churches, right here in the beautiful island of Bermuda, need to be under some reprogramming. what he can. So let's look at this retraining that's going on, 5 through 8. I'm almost there, 5 through 8. And he ran. See, let me say something here. What's the danger in a church continuing to exist, but there's no presence of God? The danger is that the younger generation coming behind never learns what the Holy Spirit, what a move of God is like. So their reality becomes, well, I've been in church all my life, but this is how it is. Ain't no type of move. It becomes their norm. And what we got to do, and I begin it with me, I model it with me, we've got to make sure that we're training the little children to appreciate the presence of God. Little boy or little girl cry, let them cry, because they don't know what's going on. I cried when I was a little girl, and my mama, and it was Evangelist, or, Lois, Burgess, and go jumping all around the place, what's going on? But today, I'm a lead jumper. Today, daughter number 1, daughter number 2, they're jumping, they're dancing. And so we've got to invite the little ones in to appreciate the unusual, what they don't understand. They'll understand it as they continue to get older. 5 through 8, I read. And he ran unto Eli. Right? Because he heard a voice. He ran unto Eli and said, here I am, for thou callest me. And he said, I called not. But never a true word was spoken. Because he weren't calling nothing. I called not, lie down again. And he went and lay down. And the Lord called yet again, Samuel. And Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, here am I, for thou didst call me. So his hearing right. But his only had a certain image in front of him. Eli, and he answered, I called not, my son. Lie down again. Now what's interesting there, you're going to just show me. Eli is now calling Samuel, through the word, my son. So what we see happening here now is a replacement of sons. See that, Doc? No, God didn't put up anything in his word, just to breathe. Eli is now saying, my son. God needed what? Because God's going to order. So he needs Eli to relinquish sonship of his natural sons to the son that God wanted. All right. He said, yeah. And he answered, I called not my son, lie down again. 7. Now Samuel did not yet know the voice of the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. Let me put something down a hot minute right here. The word of the Lord was not yet revealed unto Samuel because God would not permit his word to be revealed in a place that was set. Because if God's word showed up, that would be his approval in the place. So God, not open vision. I ain't saying nothing. I ain't speaking nothing to anybody until I'm ready. Verse 8, and the Lord called Samuel again the 3rd time. You know it's got to be a 3rd time. And he arose and went to Eli and said, here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived. Remember that word from Sunday church? Yeah. Finally got thinking. A leader who decides to finally think. And Eli perceived the Lord had called the child. Took him 3 times to finally figure it out. How many leaders is God speaking to? Leading churches and they ain't figured it out yet. How are we getting in the last days too? All sorts of stuff going on. How are you going into church and there's no move of God? God ought to be moving in every church, every week, because this is the season of it. darkness of the situation. Samuel was hearing a voice. Samuel thought it was Eli, cloudy. Eli knew it wasn't him, yet cloudy. Eli could not immediately tell Samuel that God was speaking. You see, Eli had already begun a life of disobeying God in order to allow his sons to go wrong. Hear me. Leadership does not have permission to allow their biological children to go wrong and still operate in the church. Leadership does not have permission. Yet when God is ready for a new voice to arrive, God will continue to speak. Look, if God had to speak to Samuel 50 times, he knew the time is now. He will continue to speak until all lined up with his purpose. Finally, Eli gets it. Wow, finally, the current leader gets it. He perceived. He finally got his mind thinking right. 9 and 10. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, go lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, speak, Lord, for thy servant. Wow, pause it there. Can you imagine Eli at that moment? That all of this time, he had been the chief servant. All of this time, he was thinking he would train his own sons to be the next chief servants. Yet God speaks clearly, and therefore he has to now hold Samuel, his son, and servant of God. If leaders are not careful, they'll have to speak to the person who's going to replace them. I'll leave that there. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood. Yeah. The word adds something, doesn't it? It says, and the Lord came and stood. In other words, he knows that he has the attention. When God knows he has your attention, he'll stand that attention. Because he's now ready to declare to you what the next move shall be. And the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Now you know when he does the echo. Then Samuel answered, speak, for thy servant heareth. The clouds are now disappearing. They are lifted. Oh yes. As you lift up God, as you lift up the voice of God, things that were cloudy become clear. And you enter into those places, you preach, and you praise and worship, I guarantee you, people that haven't praised for a while, people that haven't danced for a while, they get the breakthrough. The clouds lift. The nebulous becomes clear. All of a sudden, where there was no open vision, I can see clearly now. Yeah. All of a sudden, it's gonna be a brighter day. Oh yeah. When God shows up, when the clouds are prepared to disappear, when God stands up before his servant, God is saying that I declare that this is a new dispensation for this house. It doesn't matter what has gone wrong before, but I have entered in and there is now a fresh new flow of my Holy Spirit. There is now a new dispensation. Let me read this. What was acceptable now becomes unacceptable. What was allowed becomes disallowed. What was carnal becomes costly. What was limited becomes liberated. Apostle, church, when God is ready for your voice, you will speak into the darkness of your current situation, and that situation will turn from void to victory. Holiness will be the new standard. Godliness will be the new standard. Pleasing God will be the... I don't live to do anything but please God first. Now, when I please God first, I ought to please you. When I please God first, if I don't please you, it'll make no difference to me. All this happening because God prepared a voice. Come here, Apostle. He prepared a voice to shift the tenor of the situation. All because God prepared a voice to use you would allow them to. Your members, or the people that you minister to, should not miss what your voice is saying. Because God does not waste a voice. Words going out have a divine message and a divine destination. And that's why sometimes I say this, catch it. And I watch people catch it. Because you don't got to get the meaning of what the voice is saying afresh. And so, Apostle, may God continue to use your voice to shift atmospheres and to draw his people closer to him. May all you do for the glory of God shine forth as light. That every time you speak, there's light. When you sing, nobody's voice sounds like your voice. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. Your voice is so rich. I admit one time I said, boy, if I had that voice, I'd sound more preachy. My prayer is that God will yet bless you for releasing your voice. And I'll say this, as I just saw. That's why God had to release you out of that bondage. Because your voice was set to release hundreds and thousands upon thousands out of their places of bondage. I honor you by the word of God. Blessings abound. Let me say this. Take your seat, precious people. Our voices have the ability to linger. I pray that as you use your voice, that it lingers beyond your time of existence, so that it carries forth from generation to generation. Make your aim to light up somebody's life with your voice. Father God, I thank you for your word. God, I thank you that you spoke in the beginning and it was so. That your first creative word was light, and it was. And God, you called us to be lights of the world, and we are. God, help us to be echoes of your heart and to speak forth light and light everywhere we go. Thank you for this time, this high time in Zion of praise, worship, and your word. Now, God, may we now bask in the overflow of who you are and take delight in the fact that you even bother to use us anyway. God, to you we give glory and honor and praise. In Jesus' name we pray. God's people said, amen, amen. I'm not sure what you're doing next. Presentations? Okay, we got one, too. You know I'm Bermuda because they say, one got one. Love you all much. Stay focused. And be careful also of the voices you hear and you listen to. God bless you.